stop taking notes manually in 2026. Alright, we are not the early 2000s, so you don't have to manually write down meeting minutes or lecture notes. Alright, whereas you can use the AIKONIC AI Note Taker, alright, to record the notes instead, and it can transcribe for you into a text instead. So you guys can use this to take your notes or record any meeting minutes. So yeah, this is really, really incredible piece of device right over here. And look at that, how slim this thing is. Look at how slim this thing is. Alright, I can't even focus. My camera is not even focusing. Alright, it's so thin, so lightweight, and it is physically just a card over here. Alright, so it's literally a card over here, and the whole thing is made of aluminum, so it's super well built, super strong, and it feels so good in hand. Alright, so yeah, this thing can goes into your wallet, your pocket, or anywhere you want it to be, anywhere, anytime, right? So you don't have to worry about that. Alright, let's just talk about why this is the future of AI note taking. So you guys can use this to record any conversation, any meeting minutes, any lectures, and it can transcribe it for you, summarize it for you, can help you save a lot of time, create a mind map for you. And one really interesting features that really blow my mind is can turn it into a podcast. So from the very boring recording into a podcast that you can actually listen on the go if you would like to. And I think that is one of the features that I love the most, which I'm going to demonstrate to you guys later on. And one of the best part about this is you can record anytime, anywhere, and you do not need a phone to be connected with all the time. You only need that when you want to do any transcribing or any summarizing. And if you want to record it on the go without the need of a phone, inside here has 64 gigabytes of storage. We can basically record up to 40 hours of audio recording, which is really, really insane. And for those of you who are an iPhone user, right? iPhone are always limited to recording calls for privacy reason, but with this thing itself, it can record WhatsApp, WeChat calls, alright, audio calls directly to this thing itself. So you just place it at the back of your iPhone or your Android phone, and you guys can record the calls you do on WhatsApp or WeChat, or even a normal phone call as well, which is really cool. And you just have to slide this slider over here to the left. Alright, when it's turned red, you will see this is to record phone calls. So you use an inner mic to record the functionality, which is really, really cool. Alright, if you slide this for general recording, like conversation on the table, meeting, this and that, you'll slide it to this one. So yeah, there's a slider over here, and there's a button over here with a mini LED which shows that it's recording, what function is doing. Alright, and with just a single click of a button, you guys can just start recording instantly, which is really, really cool. And click again to stop the recording. So right now I'm going to start the recording. Alright, you guys can see it is recording right now. Alright, and it shows that it is recording. So whatever I'm speaking right now is recording, and this thing is not even connected to the app yet. So whatever I'm saying right now will be recorded and saved to the internal storage locally. So I don't have to do anything, so I can just leave it, place it anywhere, and do the recording itself. Okay, so I have to turn on my Bluetooth, alright, and let's turn it on. Alright, just need to click on connect, and it should start connecting it. Alright, and it should auto download the one that I recorded right when I'm doing this video. So it's downloading it, so just wait a while and let it download. But let me just show you other features this thing has. Alright, so they have so there's two other recordings that I did earlier on, alright, because I've been testing this thing out and it works really well. So there's two other recordings that that I did earlier on, but let's just go to our recent recording and we quickly generate it. So let's show you what it can generate or summarize the recent recording that I just did. Alright, so you guys can use a reasoning autopilot, or you guys can choose other summary template that suits what you want it to generate to. So you have intelligent legal assistance, smart media for journalism. If you do like a lot of if you're a journalist, it's really, really useful. If you're using for like in meeting minutes, you guys can also use this to do certain things right over here, the summary template. Alright, you guys can have interview, customer onboarding. There's a lot of template that you guys can go for to fit what the recorded audio is for. Alright, but I'm going to just leave it as auto so that you will detect what is best to generate for you, and you guys can also generate into any language you want. All right, for me, I'm going to generate into English, all right, but you guys can choose over a lot of different languages. I think there's 50 plus languages that you guys can generate it to, but I'll just leave it as English and just click on start, and it will start generating it for you. All right, and let me show you the other thing that I've done. All right, so this is the audio that I recorded earlier on for a testing stage, and this is about AI acceleration. And for the audio, on the recorded audio, you guys can see it have generated an executive summary for me. All right, different kind of context, key points, all right, and key features that I probably need to take note, and as well as a to-do list of what I need to do. So yeah, it's all shown all over here. You guys can see very, very detailed and very well organized. All right, you guys have a to-do list. You guys can see what are the to-do lists over here. All right, and this is the podcast that I'm talking about, the industry changing podcast right over here, the industry first, all right, podcast that is generated using a more of a normal AI voice, all right, to sound very, very human-like, so that when you're listening to it, it doesn't feel very, very robotic. All right, I'm going to show you play for you guys later on, but I'm going to show you other features this thing has as well. Like I say, it can also generate into a mind map, which basically you guys can see. All right, this is the mind map itself, and yeah, there's a lot of things that you guys can do and see at the mind map itself. You guys can see it's very, very well detailed. You guys can see, okay, you can zoom in. All right, it's classified into different categories, all right, different kinds of subcategories, so that you have a better visual overview of what the speaker is saying, or what the whole thing, the whole recording is about. So you can extract certain key features and can group certain key points that you find important, all right, for maybe future projects or future understanding. This is especially really helpful, especially if you're a student and you're listening to a lecture. This can be really helpful to extract out the key points that you probably need to study, or probably you have to remember it. All right, and this is also a transcription of the whole recording itself. All right, so yeah, it's pretty awesome. Let me just show you guys the podcast itself and let you listen to how this podcast actually sounds like.
2012, suddenly everyone said, computer vision is solved, speech recognition is solved, even language understanding.
Yeah, it felt like intelligence itself was unlocking. One impossible problem after another falling every few years.
But that raises the big question. If so much was solved back then, why did it take 10 years for AI to feel real to us?
Exactly. Between AlexNet in 2012...
All right, so as you guys can hear, all right, it sounds very loud, and there's like two-person interacting with each other, so it doesn't feel very, very dull. It feels like a conversation between two-person, and it just feels very lively, and it won't bore you out while listening to this itself. So it's really, really incredible, right, from audio recording itself. And I can also play back the original recording that this was recorded on, all right?
All of a sudden, computer vision is solved. All of a sudden, speech recognition is solved. All of a sudden, language understanding is solved. These incredible problems associated with intelligence.
So you can hear from this recording with, like, when the person is speaking, it felt very boring, and you don't want to listen through all this thing because he doesn't have any tone to it. He doesn't have any tune to it. It's just overall his speech is just very, very blunt and very monotoned. All right, but when you turn it into a podcast, it just sounds more lively and more interesting. So this is the difference between this and any other AI Note recorder. This can turn into a podcast, which is absolutely crazy about it. I'm really, really amazed by how good this thing actually turns out to be. All right, and now I think our summary for the recently recorded audio is done, and you guys can see. All right, key feature analysis. All right, so this is the one that I talked about earlier on. All right, while I was making this video and recording this at the same time, you guys have seen that. All right, and as it can come out with a to-do list. All right, so I can also generate the podcast itself. So the podcast, you just go to the podcast, click on generate, and you guys can generate into other language as well. So the one that I generated is in English, but since now I am speaking it in English, I want it to generate a podcast into Mandarin. So how do I do that? Just go into Mandarin, just click on generate podcast, and it should generate a podcast based on the audio that's recorded in Chinese. I think that is really incredible. Just wait a while to let it generate, all right? And this is a mind map about what thing I said earlier on, and the full transcription, including the timestamps of what I've said. So yeah, it's really, really cool. All right, this is one I did way earlier on, all right, about different things as well. All right, and yeah, you can also generate the podcast. So this is the original recorded audio of the very first recording. Let me just play it for you guys. All right, and you guys can hear the difference between that and the podcast itself.
Vanished labs and lives ended in obscurity. What was lost is not just machinery, but the future itself. A future where light bulbs didn't need replacing.
Okay, so if you guys can hear, this was actually a recording from a TV itself. So you can act like it was a lecture where the lecturer is standing very far away, and this is the audio that's recorded from a TV that shows like it was playing about some like historical things. All right, and let's hear the podcast audio
Imagine
itself.
a world where engines run on air and light bulbs never burn out. Sounds like sci-fi, right?
Yet those ideas were once real experiments, disappearing with their inventors, tucked into...
See, does it sound way more interesting compared to the original recording? It just sound way better, much more interesting, and get yourself hooked into the podcast itself, which is really, really amazing. All right, let me just go back to the podcast itself and see if it has generated. Okay, it is still generating it, so we can just wait a while and let us go about other features this thing has. All right, so you go into the AIKONIC AI Note itself. You guys can see there's a battery level itself. Alright, you guys can see the battery level. The recording mode is in normal mode, alright, and you can switch it to call mode itself and switch it now into phone mode, so you can just place it behind your phone and do you can record audio calls from WeChat, WhatsApp, and even your normal calls as well. Alright, you guys can see the space management, segment recording. You guys can segmentate certain recordings into how many different hours, minutes, alright, and you guys can also have a noise reduction level, especially if you are recording this in a very public space where the surrounding is really loud, there's traffic, there is like construction work ongoing, and you want the recording to be really good, all right, so that when you play back that time, you can hear the conversation you have with someone else, all right, despite the noisy background environment. This will be very useful. You guys can select the noise reduction level. So if you're like super noisy, where noise levels exceed like maybe like 90 or 100 decibels, all right, using a high one would be really awesome. But if you're like in a quiet room, all right, you can have a low or closure as well. But I'm just leave it as medium so that whenever I do recording, I don't have to worry about which environment I'm in. But I think medium is probably somewhat there. So yeah, it's really cool. You guys can do all this as well. You guys can also ask AI based on like certain things, like the whole what is this recording about, all right, so you can ask like AI, what is this recording about, and it should listen to the audio and it will give you feedback on what the recording is about. So you can just wait a while and let the AI, as you guys can see, all right, the AI has said that this is what the recording is about. So you can ask questions related to the recording itself, specific points, specific key points, which can be extremely helpful and time saving as well. All right, we also have live translation as well, which you guys can see the other party language. I can probably put it in Chinese and your language is English, and you can start translating. All right, so you can make use of this to do the translation. So I can just put this on the other party, say, 你好吗？今天天气很好，我刚吃饱饭，你呢？
Hi, how are you? The weather is great today. I just finished my meal. How about you?
So you guys can see, you guys can use this for live translation as well, which is really good. And you guys can see the translated result is very accurate, because as me, I'm bilingual, so I can understand both English and Chinese, and the translated to English is perfect. So yeah, it's really awesome. So you guys can translate into a lot of 50 different languages, I believe there is. All right, and in your profile, you guys can see, all right, they have certain membership, this and that. You guys can play around with it. All right, let me just go back to the podcast that I did earlier on, and this should be speaking in Chinese right now. So let's just have a listen to the newly generated podcast in Chinese.
你有没有想过，一支录音笔，不连手机，不连云，就能自动录音，还能自己变成一档播客？
等等，你是说它连应用都没连接就能录？那数据
That's really incredible. All right, from an English audio recording, convert into a Chinese podcast with two different people speaking, and it sounds so natural. Even in Chinese, it just sounds very natural, and I'm really mind blown by how good this thing is. So yeah, it's really like your personal assistant in this small device right here. You can do so many things with it. All right, and you can just like record and save it anywhere, anytime. You don't need a phone with it. Super convenient. And if you want to listen back to what the whole thing is about, alright, you guys can turn to the podcast and listen to it, and it will be much more, you know, engaging compared to like a very, very boring lecture hall. It will turn into something very, very interesting. And for someone who loves to listen to podcasts, this will be a game changer for you. So if you're someone who wants to save time, alright, instead of like listening to the whole thing, the whole meeting minutes, alright, the whole lectures itself, the whole conversation, alright, you guys can use this to help you save a lot of time, alright, and you guys can use it to turn into like any summary, podcast, or mind map, all this with just a single device like this, which is very, really handy and really useful. So if you guys have any thoughts and comments on this device, you guys can give me a thumbs up and comment down below. If you guys are interested to get this, alright, AIKONIC AI Note, alright, you guys can check out the first link in the description down below and get this device for yourself right now. And the battery life has been really great, so I've been testing it. It was at 83%. And now while I was recording this video, it is still at 83%. So I'm pretty sure the battery life can last you really, really long if you have any doubt with the battery life in it. And I can't think of how they actually fit a battery in such a thin device right over here. But yeah, it's really, really incredible. I'm really in love with this device. So once again, if you guys want to check out this AIKONIC AI Note, you guys can check out the link, first link in the description down below, and get this amazing device for yourself right now. Alright, so yeah, that's all for you guys. If you find this video really interesting and really helpful and helps you, brings your note taking to the next level and eliminate any papers and pen to save the environment and the tree as well. So you know, you're doing both eco-friendly and being productive at the same time. So yeah, that's all for today, guys. And this is JForce Gaming, and I shall see you guys in my next video. Peace out.
I don't wanna cry.